Hey, everybody. Welcome to another How to Succeed podcast. This is the show that helps you get to the top and stay there. This is How to Succeed at Thriving in Uncertainty. The following podcast is copyrighted by Sandler Systems, LLC, and protected by U.S. copyright laws. Sandler is the worldwide leader in sales, management, and customer service training. You can find more information, all kinds of free resources and good stuff at Sandler.com. I'm your host, Mike Montague, Director of Community Engagement at Sandler, and my guest this week is Kaysi Curtin, a Sandler trainer from Fresno who started her business right before a major global pandemic, and she has found a way to thrive in all of that uncertainty. We're going to find out how next here with Kaysi Curtin. Kaysi, welcome back to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about thriving in uncertainty, maybe your experience with it and what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me. So I broke this down based on what I experienced in 2020. So bought my franchise in 2019 in December. And so I experienced all of this stuff and nothing ever changes. So I really want to talk a lot about that today, about our behavior, attitude, and then build that technique piece in it. And we'll have a good conversation.
Yeah, I think here's where I think it's interesting for people is that some people thrive in uncertainty, and especially great salespeople. They come alive when times get tough, the tough get going, and they make stuff happen. And it's like, when you're going through hell, keep going. That's a great famous Winston Churchill quote. Some people have that. Other people seem to find an excuse. A bad economy has been a top excuse of salespeople since David Sandler founded the company 50 years ago. All 50 years in great economic times, in the 90s .com boom, in the 2000s, all kinds of different times, people have found a way to use the economy as an excuse. Well, I think winners and successful business people, salespeople, managers, they understand that there's always going to be something we didn't plan for. There's going to be perceived good times and bad times, but a lot of opportunities are won in bad times and they're amplified in good times. And it's not sort of the other way around. Is that fair?
I think that is a great analogy that you just put there, because it's almost like every time we ask a salesperson, why are you not prospecting? They have all these excuses of everything else that they have to do. And it's an excuse. It's the same thing here. We want to blame everything else for our poor, quote unquote, behaviors or the lack thereof. So yeah, I absolutely agree.
So let's start with the ideal attitude for thriving in uncertainty or down economic times. What do successful people do to make it through these?
So Mike, I think when you look at attitude, right, people associate attitude with either having a negative attitude or a positive attitude. So if we look at a positive attitude, you have to look at that as an outlook of possibility, right? So let's define that as an outlook of possibility and a negative one as an outlook of limitation. So when you're getting into an uncertain time or whatever you want to call what we're going through right now, it's having to understand and have the mindset that there are still people out there buying, right? If you look at, I love I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about those downhill skiers that have to go through the trees. And you're like, oh my God, don't hit the tree, right? But they tell them to ski the gap, not the tree, because if they focus on the tree, boom, they're going to smack the tree. So it's just, if you look at if you want to call it a recession, if you want to call it a time of turmoil, whatever word you want to give it, an outlook of possibility means you have to know that are people out there buying and people are still growing and people have businesses that are still thriving right now. So that is huge. And that's number one, right? That's the top of our success triangle, is your attitude.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot to unpack there because sometimes we buy into these stories that other people are telling. Whatever makes the news is usually some extreme version of point of view to get your attention and not reality. So do you have any advice on how, in your experience, you've been able to keep your head on straight, even when you invested in your own business, like I said, a couple of months before a major pandemic, or you were in advertising and other downtimes and crazy things too, when a lot of people are pulling back? How do you maybe find level. I don't, sometimes I don't feel like it's optimistic or pessimistic, but I find like being realistic and saying, hey, if I am in an industry that's struggling, how do I deal with that? If I'm not, how do I ignore all of this other noise that can be distracting? Do you have any advice for us?
Well, I think if you look at it in the sense that with not so much that when we're struggling, but if you look at an outlook of possibility and you understand that people are out there and buying, and you have people that, first of all, let's not watch the news on a regular basis, okay? Because that can just get you depressed on its own. But if you're constantly around people that are saying, this is what's happening, you pull back, be worried, don't do this, don't do that. You can't surround yourself with those things. You have to really step outside the box and understand that there's a lot of opportunity out there. And if you just open your eyes and go out and just do the work to get it, it's there. It is absolutely there. And I hate the negativity around nobody's, again, just nobody's buying. What are you guys hearing from clients? And I'm just like, let's switch that off, because if we continue to talk about all of the things that could happen, right? It's like living in the past. We have to look forward and look into the future. And so let's not worry about what happened yesterday, and let's figure out, okay, how are we going to move forward and grow our businesses and grow in sales? And yeah,
I love
can't look
that.
backwards.
And normally I don't use Sandler as an example, but I think it's a great example in this case, is that investing in your sales team.
Mhm.
If things are bad, it's a great time to invest in your sales team. You need something to turn that around. Pulling out of your team and not investing in them or losing salespeople is not going to help you grow your business. If things are great and you're scaling fast and this is your best year ever, you probably have sales challenges that you need to hire new salespeople. You want to invest in your team and you want to pour fuel on that fire. And if things are neutral and it's been plateaued and you haven't had an increase, you're not failing, you're not succeeding, but maybe you're growing like 3 to 5% year over year and things have kind of plateaued for you. That's a great time to invest in your sales team and your people and maybe a new product or launch or change your approach. And so regardless of the external situation, great salespeople can find a way to position that and either help people in pain or help, inspire and encourage people that are succeeding. It shouldn't really matter what the situation is. Is that fair?
No, I mean, I don't remember who I heard this from, but I heard this right before everything closed in 2020. And they said that crisis does not create weakness, it exposes it. And a light bulb went in my head and I said, ding, 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 ding. That is absolutely correct. So every single business or person so if salespeople were doing really, really, really good, it's because they were getting all the low hanging fruit, right? We were doing really well. And then when things slowed down, we're going, wait a minute, we're really not as good as we thought we were. And so our business completely, should go up in any case. But just like you mentioned, Mike, the first two things that people hold back on when they're worried about the economy is advertising and training, which is the most insane thing possible. We both have marketing backgrounds, right?
If you want to grow revenue, yeah.
Because revenue and sales, right? Those go hand in hand, and they should, revenue and sales, but marketing and sales go hand in hand. They both feed the same funnel. And so when a lot of times people would say, we're really busy right now. We don't have time to advertise. We have enough business that we can handle. We want to advertise in the slow time. Well, that makes no sense. Why do you advertise when it's slow? Because you're not going to get business in the door until you start getting busy again. And that's why it's like when you don't want to pull back on your training budget when, you're starting to worry about things or you're trying to hold back on money, because you're going to get a lot of things exposed and you're going to realize that you need it more than ever. And so you really got to hammer down on the activities and behaviors.
So that takes us to behaviors here and what we can actually do to thrive during a challenging time, no matter what is causing it. I feel like there's a little bit of consistency. We need to keep doing what we know works and just sort of do the behaviors. I think about investing. You keep putting money in the stock market, even though it's going down, because you're buying low now. And when it comes back up, you're going to do that. So as long as you keep putting money in, you're going to be fine. If you pull out or you stop investing, that's when you get in trouble. I feel like the same thing is true in sales and leadership. It's doing those key behaviors that you know are right, but maybe what are some of those things, or what are some of the goals, plans, and actions we should be thinking about?
So this was from Jerry Rice. He said, if you want to achieve what others can't, you have to do what others won't. And so you really need to don't slow down. Don't say, hey, I'm going to wait for everything to go by, because a lot of people made that mistake in 2020. And if you're waiting for something to go by, you were waiting way too long, right? So some people say, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to do what others want? Well, it's pretty simple. It's you don't simply stand out by just meeting expectation. Okay. So if you're just doing what you're being told to do or what's expected of you, you are not going to grow your business. You're not going to grow your career. If you want to get ahead and advance your sales career, you got to put in the work. So in times, again, of COVID lockdowns, and you want to talk about a recession, people make up excuses and they say things like, nobody's buying right now. Nobody wants to hear from me, right? Or they'll say nobody has any money. And that is absolutely not the case. No one who builds a great career gets there by doing the minimum. So if you want to advance, you have to do what other people won't do. And right, if even a lot of times, you want to build yourself, you want to grow yourself. So you'll go to your boss and you'll say, hey, I really would like to get some training, some coaching. If they're not willing to pay for it, then you go out and seek a coach that's willing to help you. Like, you need to invest in yourself, because you got to go beyond what people are expecting of you. Those are your top tier 1% performers, the ones that are willing to do extra.
Yeah, I think that we see that a lot with things like cold calling, or calling people that maybe are having a rough year and stuff. That I'm really struggling to be PC with this year, but I'll just focus on the good side and say good salespeople do the difficult things. They have the difficult conversations. And sometimes if you really want to reach somebody and you don't have an introduction, or they're not calling you, you have to interrupt their day. And you can do that in a nice, gentle, way, and say, hey, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but I think I can help you in this difficult time, or in this time. And so I know you aren't planning on getting this call right now, but can we set aside some time when you are planning on it? And you can have a logical conversation about it. And you can have those difficult conversations and do things that other people aren't willing to do, which is a lot of time is talk to strangers, talk about money, have hard conversations about their problems and challenges, or things that they're doing wrong that they need to fix. Those are all of those things in that behavior bucket, that if you do those things and you're consistently challenging your prospects and your salespeople and your customers with interesting questions and a consultative approach, and you're doing what other people are afraid to do, you're going to have success regardless of the environment.
Yes, Mike. And I think that kind of ties into that technique piece, right? Because I think in times of uncertainty, the biggest piece I feel you need to focus on, right? So when we look at our BAT triangle, behavior, attitude, and technique, and you look at that technique side, it's filled with our personal presence, with technique and strategy. And your personal presence is huge. I mean, it is detrimental on how successful I feel you are going to be as an individual performer when it comes to growing your own personal business, or your company's business, right? So if you look at personal presence, that's an intangible quality that opens doors for you. And we always say, right, whatever your competition is doing, stop doing it right away. So how do you make yourself sound different when you're the one calling when everybody is not? Right? When you're the one going out and making all those cold calls, or you're doing the cold canvassing when nobody wants to bother anybody, you have to have those tough conversations. And your personal presence is what connects you and what people remember, right? We all get nervous when we talk in front of groups. We get nervous if we're not, getting the first impression that we want. But if you work on your personal presence, you're going to be recognized as authentic, open, trustworthy, which trustworthy, when it comes to sales, that's like the number one most important thing when it comes to selling, is building that trust. So
well,
I think that's huge.
I think it's huge for trust and credibility, especially in tough times. If you're the buyer, do you want to buy from a company that's worried about making their numbers, if they're going to survive this or not? I mean, it depends on what you're buying. Maybe you can, buy low and have that furniture closeout sale. But if you're expecting to get service, 2 or 3 years from now, then you probably want somebody who's confident, that has a strong personal presence, that's excited about the market right now, that are not worried and concerned about things and are investing in themselves, their company, and their people. Because when you see somebody that's worried, that's nervous, they're talking about uncertain times, you're thinking, well, man, you're worse off than me here. I can't trust you to solve my problems if you can't solve your own, kind of thing. And it starts this negative spiral that doesn't help anybody.
Yes, right. If you're going in and you're making small talk, going, "Hey, how's the economy treating you right now? How's business going? I know it's tough out there." It's going, get out of my office. I mean, what is going on here? We have to look at the upside on how we can actually help people. And when you have a strong personal presence and that conviction, right? And there's a difference between having a strong personal presence and being cocky, right? Just being, instead of being confident, but that personal presence, you're actually able to close more deals, right? Than those people that lack that personal presence. So, um, I have 5 tips that I typically will go on and I coach on when it comes to building that side, because any successful salesperson, that's tough, right? It's working on that attitude piece, and I think number one is really having a clear vision, or you got to have a clear vision. So if you have to be passionate about what you're doing, you got to be passionate about what you sell, your product or your service. That's really has to show and know that you're actually helping people. Number two is values. So I made a promise to myself that I will never take on a client that I know I cannot help. That's a value that I have. And if I can't help you and I can't grow revenue and we can't actually show that, I'm going to pass, right? Not everyone's qualified
Love that.
to be a client. Number three is have a really clear sense of purpose. So know what you want to achieve before you're getting into that meeting and that interaction, and prepare what the outcome is going to be, right? It's like that David Sandler always says, sell like you have 2 million in the bank, right? And you got to believe that, right? That's what that personal presence is. It's walking away knowing I'm okay with whatever outcome we're going to have here. Number four, when it comes to personal presence, is you got to be authentic, right? You really have to be authentic, and um, make or break business relationships. Like that's huge if you're not authentic when it comes to those business relationships, and making sure that you are believing what you're doing, and you got to practice what you preach. Right. So, what am I doing personally for my business and self development? If I'm a coach, how am I improving on my own skills? If I'm getting clients to come to training once a week, right? What am I doing on my own time? And I really think you have to practice what you preach, and invest in yourself. And that's what all of us, Sandler trainers do. It's that ongoing training that we do and we have our clients do. And the fifth one is you got to give value. And what I mean by that is be an expert in your field. We do that all the time as Sandler trainers, and share some experience and do it for free. Right. But that's where we have executive briefings. We do things like that. But what will happen is you start to attract followers, and it raises your profile. It gets people to want to connect with you. They're following you on social media, and you're building a brand. Right. And it's the notion of giving before you're receiving. Right. That's all part of building your personal presence, which is huge. It's huge for
Love
building your
that.
business.
Two that I want to amplify there. The last one, we interviewed Bob Berg, the author of Go Giver, on this podcast. So you can look up a previous version of that. Great book there. But the concept is there is a return on investment in giving, that when you're generous, other people see that confidence, they get to experience your stuff. And now, especially if people are hurting, how can you help them now and get paid later? Defer payments, do what you got to do to figure out a way to keep your business going, even if your clients are struggling. Or this is coming out somewhere around the end of the year. A lot of times they might need a tax break one year, or they might have a new budget the next year. Get flexible and getting creative with that, but being generous in a way that I want to show you that I can help you and I'll prove it, and then I'll earn my worth. I think if you have that kind of flexibility and creativity in your sales, that's a huge way to get ahead. And the second one I wanted to highlight was the authenticity piece, because we always hear that, like, fake it till you make it. And it's not a great saying, because if you're faking it, you're not believing it, you're not being it. And so I think, be it till you make it, be generous, be optimistic until things become more optimistic and positive for you, is a lot better way to do it. And I love the way you explained it. Even there is, like, you have to find a way to convince yourself that you believe it, that you have something of value, that you're bringing your A game, and that you deserve to have your best year ever. And once you do that, then your personal presence comes along with it. Anything else you'd add here?
I think just to go off what you just said, Mike, is speak what you seek until you see what see what you say. Right?
Mm.
Put that out there. If I don't believe what I'm saying, I'll have people that reach out to me sometimes on social media and they say, "Gosh, Kaysi, I really feel like you really believe what you're saying." And I'm thinking, "What? You think I'm lying about it? No, of course I believe what I'm saying. I'm passionate about this stuff because I've been a client. I know this stuff works. I love helping people, and if I can help you grow your business, I mean that is like that is so rewarding to have a client or someone tell you that you've grown their business, astronomically, and you're giving you numbers, and it's so rewarding, and it makes you want to keep doing what you're doing, but you have to truly believe that, and you got to put that out there, right? Because then you don't want to be a fraud.
No,
So,
I love that. And I also get that a lot with my public speaking stuff or the podcast. People say, how do you get to be good on a podcast? Or how do you're such a natural on stage. I get that compliment a lot. And it's the only one that I reject. A lot of times I just try and take compliments and accept them, say thank you, and not shirk those off. But I say, you didn't see the first 2,000 performances. When I was a scared 8th grader, like about to pass out and failing my 5-minute presentation in class, like you weren't there. That was not a natural. Like how you get good is by being bad first. And so I think like, even if you have to figure out a way to survive or figure out a way to sell your product or service, the only way to do that is by doing it consistently, by believing that you're going to get there and pushing through that part of being a bad salesperson, which we all have to go through.
Yes, and that goes back to the behavior, right? You have to do what other people aren't willing to do. And most people, Mike, in your situation years ago when you weren't as good as you are now, because now you're fabulous, they would have gave up and they would have said, "Oh my gosh, public speaking, I'm so nervous, I can't do that. I'm not going to get in front of all these people." But you kept practicing and practicing, right? That's our getting outside of our comfort zone. We don't grow when we're comfortable, right? We get fearful, and then we get into our learning zone, and then we get in our growth zone, and that's where you have that conviction and where dreams are made, and people get on stage like you all the time and don't even sweat and bat an eye. I mean, right?
Well, I love that. I'll share one more just because we're doing a little peek behind the scenes today. But people, sometimes the guests are intimidated to come on the show and they go, I don't know if I'm as good. And they have that imposter syndrome about the other guests that we've had on. And I say, well, you didn't hear the original. You heard the edited version that we put out to people. And I feel like so much of life is like that now. You're seeing the curated version of other people's lives on Facebook or other people's, numbers that they're saying they're doing. And the thing that they're putting out there is that you don't need to have that imposter syndrome. You can be authentic and who you are, and you can be learning and growing and not ashamed to make mistakes along the way and figure it out. I think it's a great lesson to leave everybody on here. So once again, we're talking with Kaysi Curtin, Sandler trainer from Fresno, California. And you've been on the podcast before, and I've asked you my cheesy job interview questions. So I'll just ask you, what's your next goal? What is your next big milestone, or what are you shooting for right now?
I'm just looking to continue to grow. When I'm able to grow other people's businesses, my business grows. And it is the most rewarding, fulfilling thing you could absolutely do. And it's so crazy when people say that, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And now I'm like, I do that because I don't look forward to Friday and think I have the weekend. I'm just like, every day is a great day and it's just wonderful. So I'm just looking to continue to helping other businesses and in turn growing mine. So.
That's funny. I do want to push back a little bit on that one because I don't like that quote, because I think there are still days that you have to pay your taxes. There are still bad days where it stinks and you didn't get the sale or whatever. And so I think, along this topic that we've been talking about, you are going to have peaks and valleys. You're going to have days where you didn't get it, or it's just not working and you feel like it's not there, but those should be micro moments, and they don't stop you from continuing to make progress when you love what you do. So I know that message of that quote is so great, but as somebody who's more of a realist, I'm like, it's okay to sit on the edge of your bed and worry every once in a while too. And then just get back up and do it again.
Yes, that is life. I mean, if anything worth having does not come easy. easy, right? Anything that comes easy to us is not something that other people strive for. So if you really want to be great at what you do, you got to do what other people are not willing to do. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of people out there that are not willing to put in the work. And that's why they're not up that top, 1-2%. They're just not, because they're not willing to put in the work, because everyone has bad days. Everyone has days where they don't want to wake up. They don't want to go to the gym. They don't want to deal with all the stresses in life. And so they go back to bed. But you know what? People that have that mentality, that mindset, that there is an outlook of possibility, they get up anyway. And because they have conviction that they're going to keep going and keep striving. Yeah. Not every day is great.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you what you're working on too, because I think people see successful people and they go, oh, they made it or they're there. And I wanted to ask you what you're learning or what you're working on personally that you're trying to maybe advance your attitude, behavior, or technique on.
I have been a complete advocate of making sure you're taking care of yourself first. Because if I don't have a good, clear mindset, I feel like a fraud when I'm coaching and training people on, you got to, mindset and outlook of possibility, if I don't even believe that. So constantly reading, I listen to a lot of very motivational stuff. Like I'm on the treadmill and I'm just flipping through stuff that just makes me start. I got to slow myself down because I get all excited. But that stuff, I think clearing my mind and always keeping me pushing forward is what gives me that excitement and that freedom and ability to go on and be able to share that with other people. But constantly it's self-development. Like you have to, nobody's perfect. And if I did not continue to train on the things that I'm coaching on and improve myself, I'm going to have people that are getting better than I am. And I can't have that.
Great answer. All right, let's wrap it up for everybody. 3 quick ones based on how to succeed at thriving in uncertainty. What's one attitude you'd like people to have?
Attitude would be an outlook of possibility.
And one behavior or action item you would like people to do?
I want you to push your boundaries and do what other people are not willing to do. So don't just do what's asked of you. Keep going.
And a technique, tool, or hack to use?
Work on your personal presence, work on your conviction, and believe everything that comes out of your mouth.
I love it. Again, Kaysi Curtin, Sandler trainer from Fresno. If you would like more information on Sandler, you can get any of our free resources at Sandler.com or reach out to a local Sandler trainer. So if you're in Fresno, you know who you're looking for. If you are not, go click on the locator, find a local training center, or reach out to our enterprise team if you have more than one location and you want help figuring that out. As always, hit subscribe, leave us a comment, share this episode with somebody that you think needs to hear it. And whatever you are, be a good one. The How to Succeed podcast is brought to you by Sandler, the worldwide leader in sales, management, and customer service training. For more information, go to Sandler.com.
The Sandler Summit returns in 2023. Each new event builds exponentially upon the energy and success of the prior year. The 2022 Sandler Summit event was a huge success for everyone who attended, so don't miss the next one. Buy your tickets to the Sandler Summit at Sandler.com/summit.